Welcome, everybody. Good afternoon, good evening. My name is Stephen, and I'll be your moderator this evening. I'm very excited to welcome to this webinar Chloe Hironaka, Sales and Marketing Coordinator with Unitas Dental, as our speaker tonight. And she's here to discuss 3 steps to fix low PPO fees. So before we get started, I'd just like to take care of a couple of points of housekeeping. If you have a question at any point during this evening's webinar, please go ahead and type it in the Q&A section, and we'll work with Chloe to get those answered after the webinar. And secondly, CE is not available for this webinar, and that applies to whether you're watching this live or on demand. So with that, welcome, Chloe, it's all yours.
Alrighty, thank you so much, Stephen, for the introduction, and thank you so much, everybody, for joining us this afternoon or evening, depending on where you're at. Super excited to speak with you all today and hopefully answer a lot of questions you may have been having about your PPO participation and how to get higher reimbursements for your practice. So hopefully we'll give you some helpful tips and insight there to really help bring in that revenue for your practice. So as Stephen mentioned, if you have any questions or thoughts that come to you throughout this webinar as we're going through everything, please feel free to take down my information here. You can shoot me an email after the webinar and I'd be more than happy to assist you directly. You can put them in the chat box or Q&A and we'll make sure that we get those answered for you. So as Stephen mentioned, my name is Chloe Hironaka, and I am a sales and marketing coordinator here at Unitas Dental. And I have worked here for about the past 5 years now and absolutely love it. I've worked at the company in several different roles and capacities, but being in the sales and marketing space has probably been my favorite just because it gives me the opportunity to do webinars just like this one and talk to offices all day, every day about how they can increase their reimbursements. So just some background on our company in case you aren't familiar. We are Unitas Dental and we have been doing this since 2011. So for about the past 12 years now, we've had the opportunity to work with thousands of practices all across the country. We have clients in every single state. We currently have over 1,400 active clients on service with us, which is great. We have a lot of data, lots of experience, and that definitely helps when it comes to going to the table to negotiate with these insurance company as that united front for our clients. We are actually based out of Mesa, Arizona, so we do work remotely for all of our clients, and we make up a team of over 100 PPO insurance experts. So what we're going to be covering today is our PPO negotiation and optimization framework. So we're specifically going to be focusing on first how to analyze your practice data to better understand which digitally driven procedures need better reimbursement. So we're going to make sure that you're focusing on the right fees, the right procedures. We're going to talk about how to negotiate CBCT and large equipment CDT codes, and we're going to talk about how to optimize your PPO participation to prioritize reimbursement on CBCT codes and really take it to the next level. So, like I said, lots of great information coming at you. We're going to move through things pretty quickly. So take notes, write down some questions, use the Q&A. But what's really cool is take out your phone and scan this QR code because we have created a PPO negotiation quick start guide that basically is our step-by-step breakdown of our exact PPO negotiation framework that we're going to be talking about today. So if you missed something or you want to go back and revisit, this should be super, super helpful to you. It's our free tool that we're giving as being part of this webinar. So go ahead, again, take out your phone, scan this QR code. Otherwise, you can go to www.ppoguide.com if you aren't able to scan that QR code, and make sure you download this PPO negotiation quick start guide to use as we go throughout the information today. So like I said, first we're going to be chatting about analyzing your practice data to understand which digitally driven procedures need better reimbursement. So what the first step is we need to understand what your current PPO participation is and your current reimbursements. We have to have that full picture, just like an x-ray with a patient, in order to know what to do first, where to even get started. So we're going to talk about discovering and mapping out your PPO participation, receiving and documenting your actual fee schedule reimbursements, and comparing and repairing UCR versus reimbursement discrepancies. So those are the subtopics we're going to be covering here. So first, when it comes to talking about discovering and mapping out your PPO participation. So this step may seem pretty straightforward, but it's actually super, super important. And you want to make sure that you get it right, because it's really going to set the trajectory of how the rest of the process is going to go and can save you a lot of time in the long run. You want to make sure that you're know who you're participating with so that you reach out to the right companies. So the first thing when you start calling and verifying who you're in network with is you want to be aware of the 3 different participation types. And we're going to go over these in more detail next, but there's technically 3 different ways you can be considered a in-network participating provider. And you can be direct, you can be through a PPO to PPO leasing relationship, or you can go through what's called an umbrella or TPA company, umbrella networking. So depending on which of these participation types you are, totally determines what fee schedule you're end up utilizing, therefore who you need to reach out to actually negotiate and what needs to be fixed there. So keep in mind that those are the 3 different participation types that you, when you're calling the insurance companies to verify, you want to verify which type they are. You also want to ensure that when you're calling to verify participation, that you're verifying per doctor, per location. So just because the doctors are all at the same location, or if you have multiple locations, even if they're under the same tax ID number and it's the same providers, it is very, very common, it's probably more common than not, for there to be discrepancies or variances in how the providers are participating from each other or from one location to the next. So you want to, again, treat it like a patient. Just like for every single patient, you would x-ray and examine individually. If it was a pair of twins, you wouldn't just do one and call it good. You want to treat this like that, like the same way. So one of the benefits we're going to give you as being part of this webinar is we're actually going to provide to you a provider relations contact list. So that should hopefully be super helpful as you start this quest to verify your participation as well. So you'll have that ready to go. And then the other thing you want to have handy is a spreadsheet to collect all your information. So what I recommend is using a Google Sheet or an Excel spreadsheet, and in the first column, listing out all of your major PPO insurances. I would focus on the major ones if you're feeling like you don't know where to start and you're a network with a million insurances. And then for every provider that you have, just add them for each column. And then that way you can just go down your little list, and every row is your different insurance. And you can just, for each provider, check how they're participating, if they're direct, if they're through another company. You want to verify which company. So you want to they should be able to provide that to you if you're not directly contracted. And if you are not direct, or excuse me, if you are direct, you also want to ensure that you're obtaining your fee schedule effective date, because that's going to tell you if you are eligible to negotiate. And you also want to ask for a copy of your current fee schedule. So to save yourself time as you're reaching out and verifying this, if they say that you're directly contracted, that means you're utilizing their fee. So have them send you a copy of that. So just to quickly elaborate on those different participation types and why they affect your reimbursement so much. So I'm sure you're all familiar with the direct contract. That's going to be the most common, straightforward relationship. In order to have a direct contract with an insurance company, that means at some point in time, the provider or office submitted a credentialing application to that specific insurance company, stating or agreeing that you're going to be in network, you're going to be a participating provider, you're going to treat those patients and accept their reimbursements or their fee schedule. So this used to be basically the only way you could be in network with an insurance company. But again, if you're direct, that means when those patients come into your practice, you submit the claim to that insurance and they reimburse you according to the contracted fee schedule. But now what's really, really common is what we call PPO to PPO leasing. So most of the insurance companies participate in PPO to PPO leasing, in which they, in order to grow their networks, have basically formed these relationships or partnerships with each other in which they agree to lease their providers out to any insurance that they have partnered with. And so what that means for the provider is that when you directly contract with one insurance company, there's a very high likelihood that you will automatically, because of this contract, be leased out to other payers that this company partners with. And so when those patients start coming into your practice and you treat them, you are considered in network, but you're actually going to still get reimbursed according to your direct contract that's linking you to that other insurance company. And then with the umbrella networking, it's the same concept as the PPO to PPO leasing relationship. The main difference here is there's really 4 to 5 major umbrella network companies. And they were specifically designed to act almost as like a broker and recruit a lot of providers. They put them in network with a lot of PPOs, hence the name umbrella network. But same thing, any umbrella that you join, they're going to put you in network with a bunch of different PPOs, and then those PPOs will be reimbursed according to that umbrella's fee schedule. So that is why, because of these different leasing relationships, it really does at the end of the day just come down to who your direct contracts are with, because a lot of providers are technically considered over contracted, meaning they could pick up several of their PPOs that they aren't direct with through multiple of the direct contracts that they do have. And so it really just depends on the specific insurance company. It's usually specific to the plan or the patient's plan as to which one they're going to end up pushing you towards using that fee schedule. So that's why it's super crucial, again, to go through and really understand who you're in network with, what fee schedules you're on in order to effectively negotiate and optimize. So as you are, again, verifying your participation, you want to be making sure that you're collecting your current fee schedule. So don't just trust what you already have in your system. Companies do sometimes change and adjust their fees on their own. And so you want to make sure you have your accurate, up-to-date fee schedule in your system so that when you're comparing all your different fee schedules and offers, it's going off the accurate data. So to get your current fee schedules, you can usually call provider relations. Now a lot of companies have their provider portals that you can utilize, so that way you can just log on and download it. You can also email them. They'll usually send it via email or fax. Again, make sure you're verifying per doc, per location. And then of course, as you get those updated fee schedules, make sure to update Dentrix or whatever practice management software you use with those current fees. So now that you've gone through the process of verifying your current fee schedules, verifying how you're in network, I want to chat to you a little bit about comparing and repairing your UCR versus reimbursement discrepancies. So the other thing you want to get in order before you start to negotiate is you want to ensure that your UCRs, your office fees, are set competitively for your area. So, and you want to make sure you increase those before you go to the table to negotiate if they are not where they need to be. So, what I would recommend doing here first is to use another spreadsheet. And in the first column, I would list out all of your your procedures. And then in the next column, the second column, I would list out all of your UCRs or your office fees on those procedures. And then in the third, fourth, fifth, all the following columns, just for each insurance company, plug in all of your current reimbursements on those procedures. And then that way you have this huge master spreadsheet and you can see all of the comparisons, and you want to ensure that no UCR is at or below your highest reimbursing PPO fee schedule. Okay, you want to show that discrepancy and you want your UCRs to be above your highest paying or highest reimbursing PPO fee schedule. The other thing I recommend you doing is utilizing a percentile-based analysis tool. There's a couple of different ones out there. I recommend Henry Schein's fee analysis. That's what we use for our clients, because that's going to give you the data to show the different percentiles for your area. And that way you can actually, again, not only see that your UCRs are above your current fee schedules, but that you actually are priced competitively for your area. So I get asked this all the time from PPO driven practices. You know, a lot of times doctors think, 80% or 90% of my PPOs are my patients are PPO driven, so I don't really update my office fees because I'm never getting that fee anyways. I don't want to see the write-off or increase the write-off. So the thing is that that's how the insurances do determine the different fee schedules they're able to offer offices, is what offices are charging. So in an ideal scenario, offices are all increasing their office fees and staying competitive. And so that way the insurances have to come up with their reimbursement rates. So we have seen the correlation between what your procedures are priced at and what the insurance companies are willing to negotiate and reimburse you. You want to show that discrepancy. And then obviously our goal is to get the fees, the reimbursements increased as much as we can. So for anyone, we're just going to take a little pause here before we get into our next topic. For anyone that may be jumping on here a little bit late, if you missed this, before we jump into our next topic, you want to go to www.ppoguide.com or take out your phone, scan the QR code right here to download our PPO Negotiation Quick Start Guide. That's going to cover everything I just went through, as well as everything I'm going to go through, so that you can reference it and use it to help you go throughout this process. So now that we've talked about kind of prepping for negotiations, now I want to move into some of our top PPO negotiation tactics and some tips here. So the three things I want to focus on today is, one, ensuring that you don't waste time on the wrong procedures. Two, how to approach the negotiation process. And third, how you can compare offers received from the different PPO insurance companies. Okay, so first, to ensure that you don't waste time on the wrong procedures, we want to make sure that if you're a general office, a general practitioner, I typically recommend that you narrow it down to your top 20 to 35 procedures to focus on when you're comparing all your different offers. If you're a specialty office, obviously you could do pretty much all your procedures, but that would be my recommendation there. So what you want to do to find out what your top procedures are is you can actually export an annual production summary from your practice management software. If you don't know how, just do a light Google and you should be able to find out step-by-step instructions. Otherwise, you can call the practice management software support team and they should be able to walk you through that. But just ensure that the report is listed by procedure code, quantity, and production. And then once you have that, you're going to throw that into a spreadsheet. You guys are going to be Excel experts by the end of this. Just kidding. It's not too tricky. You should all be able to do it. So you're going to put it in the spreadsheet and you want to rank it by the highest grossing production in order to determine those top 20 to 35 procedures. And then you're going to use these procedures in step 2. We're going to talk about that next when you're comparing the different fee schedule offers. So this is how you're going to have those ready to go, which is great. It's going to help you narrow it down when you're looking at the offers. Also, a lot of times when you are negotiating, the insurance companies will ask to see your top 20 to 35 procedures, or they might give you a range of the specific procedures that you're concerned with. They say like your top codes of most concern. So by having this, again, ready to go, you already know when you submit for request an increase, you can tell them exactly what you're looking at and wanting to increase. So just some other tips with the negotiation process. Most PPOs, you're considered eligible to negotiate every 2 to 3 years from the time that you are contracted or from the time that you last negotiated. So every 2 to 3 years is the typical cycle. What you want to do is reach out to provider relations and request a fee schedule increase. So for every company that might look a little bit different, they might direct you to a specific representative or point of contact to help you with the request. But that's your starting point, is reaching out to provider relations and requesting a fee schedule review or a fee schedule increase. Again, pay attention to your PPO participation and any of those leasing arrangements that we talked about. You only really want to ask for increases on the fee schedules for the main payer. So for example, with that PPO to PPO leasing that we talked about, if you're a network with Guardian, but you're being paid under Aetna's contracted fees, so really you have the direct contract with Aetna and they're leasing you out to Guardian, you need to reach out to Aetna to negotiate in order to actually increase your fees for your Guardian patients, because the Guardian patients are utilizing Aetna's fee schedule. So you don't need to reach out to Guardian to request an increase, because they're just going to say, oh, we don't have your contract, you're not contracted with us. You need to reach out to Guardian since they're, or you need to reach out to Aetna since they're the main payer. So make sure you are reaching out to the main payer, main umbrella network that you have that direct contract with, that you actually have the fee schedule with. Okay, so for comparing offers received from the PPOs. So using our previous steps, we've identified our top 20 to 35 procedures that have the highest quantity and production revenue. So now we're going to do some comparisons. So in our handy dandy spreadsheet, you're going to compare your current fee schedule reimbursements versus the new fee schedule on your top 20 to 35 procedure codes. That's why we want to narrow it down, because if you were to do all your procedures, that's going to be really a lot to look at. And realistically, the top 20 to 35 is what's generating most of your practice's revenue. That's where you're going to see the biggest jump or increase in your revenue as you increase these fees. So what I would do here, again, in your first column, I would do all of your the procedure codes. And then in the second column, I would do your UCR or your office fee on those procedures. And then in the third column, I would do what you're currently being reimbursed from that specific insurance company. And then in the fourth column, I would do what the increased offer or what the new fee schedule is. And then if you want to get really fancy with it, in the fifth and sixth columns, you could do like the dollar gain or decrease. You could do like the percentage increase. So you could get a little more fancy if you're an Excel pro, but that's the basis, is you at least want to be showing 35 what you're currently being reimbursed and what the increase is. Now, the reason you want to be super careful with this, and again, why we rank it based on frequency of each procedure when you're evaluating the offers, is because sometimes when you negotiate with an insurance company, they may increase and decrease specific procedure codes. And so you don't want to accept an increase in which they gave you like a $5 decrease on something you're doing all the time, but then gave you a $100 increase on something you never do. You probably don't want to accept that, because that's obviously, that $5 decrease is not going to be outweighed by the $100 increase you got on the random code. So just be very aware of that. And again, that's why you want to really look at the offer. Don't just count it as an increase and sign off on it, because again, then you're going to be locked into that for the 2 to 3 years before you can renegotiate. And then of course, once you do sign off and accept your increased offer, follow up and ensure that it actually went into effect. So of course, audit your EOBs, you can call the insurance, just make sure that you are paid on the correct reimbursement. Most fee schedule increases take anywhere between 30 to 90 days to go into effect. It kind of varies by the insurance company. Alrighty, so we've covered a lot of great stuff. We've really gotten through the negotiation process. Hopefully that gave you a lot of good tips and tricks to start working through that for your practice. But now I want to shift gears and kind of talk about how we can really maximize your negotiation opportunities through optimization. And this really is where our company comes in. We really did want to give this information so that, again, you can start doing this for your practice. You can start seeing those increases. I am confident that if you follow this framework, it will work. But this is where you really do need to partner with a PPO specialist or consultant like our company, Unitas, because we do this all day long, every single day for thousands of doctors. We really do have the data and expertise to really take it to that next level. So by partnering with us, you're able to ensure that your PPO fees are actually competitive for your area. We're going to talk about how we can minimize and the optimization risks and really maximize the benefits. And I'm going to talk to you, I want to share some results and how you can actually calculate your return on investment from going through this framework of PPO negotiations and optimization. So there's several benefits, like I said, to partnering with our company specifically for PPO negotiations and for optimization. So just on the negotiation side of things, like I just said, once you sign off on an offer, you are going to be locked into that for a minimum of 2 years before you're eligible to renegotiate again. So don't get locked into a low fee schedule. Partner with someone that actually has access to thousands of fees and knows the different trends in the industry and what companies are offering to ensure that it really is a good competitive offer for your office. We have that data to compare and determine how competitive the offer is for your area. We also, with the negotiation process, like I said, for every company, it's a little different, the framework they want you to follow to actually request the negotiations. So we really do have specific contacts and representatives we work with on a daily basis that most practices and companies just don't have access to. And then, again, just with experience, we've been able to negotiate on behalf of many PPOs for thousands of practices nationwide. So we do have that leverage for our clients and just that proven track record of successfully doing PPO negotiations and optimization. So talking about optimization. So why is optimization an even better opportunity? Okay, so to rewind a little bit, if you remember going through those different leasing relationships, that's usually where offices and providers, there will start to churn of thinking, yes, we are seeing that leasing happening. It's so frustrating. It's hard to know who we're in network with. It's hard to create treatment plans and know what fees we're going to get paid on. We're noticing that we're getting sucked under a really low paying PPO or umbrella network. How do we get out of that? How do we prevent that from happening? So that is what optimization is it's not only preventing the unwanted leasing relationships from happening so that you're defaulting to even lower paying plans, lower paying fee schedules. Instead, because we know all these different relationships between the insurance companies, we are able to identify the highest reimbursing path to participation. So as we negotiate and get all the fee proposals from all the insurance companies on the table, we can look at it and go, okay, for this specific PPO, it's going to be best to go direct. For this PPO, you want to go through this specific insurance or this umbrella network. And so we can see what arrangements are more profitable than just negotiations alone. Again, negotiations are great. It's needed. It's necessary. It's part of this process, but it's really marrying these two together where offices really do see that big jump in their reimbursements and are in a really good PPO position to maximize that revenue. And so again, I wish I could almost share like the step-by-step instructions on how to optimize, but we can't even really get into it on the webinar, just because for every office, every situation is a little unique, a little different. So that's why you really got to understand the risks involved, the timelines, all the different caveats and ins and outs. And so I really would never recommend an office doing this on their own or just going with any company or consultant to do it. But that's why our company's really taken the time to thoroughly understand this and really specialize in it, because it is where we're noticing the industry is going and where providers need to manage those relationships. So if it's definitely something you're interested in, then let's get partnered together and we can help make this happen. So with the optimization, what we're really doing is, as we're reaching out to negotiate these direct contracts, we're also reaching out to these insurance companies and basically getting proposals on the provider's behalf. So saying, okay, if doctor was to become directly contracted with you instead of being leased to this insurance company, what's the highest reimbursement you'd be willing to pay? And generally speaking, this PPO to PPO leasing relationship is not great, again, when it goes unmanaged. This PPO is having to pay huge leasing fees to this company to be like the middleman. They'd rather just have you as a direct contract and offer you a higher fee schedule. Or you can go through the umbrella networks, and that can be a really great reimbursing path as well. So it's getting those additional proposals and opportunities on the table so we know all your different options and then can implement that for you. So for the past 10 years, we've really almost 12 years now, we've implemented this plan for thousands of doctors and frameworks, and we really have pioneered the representation for dentists. So I wanted to share some results with you and also go over how you can actually project your return on investment going through this negotiation and optimization process. So we have some data here. Our typical client that goes through negotiations and optimization will on average see at least a 10% increase across the board on their reimbursements. Now, the above average range is going to be 18% or above. Below average would be considered about a 4% increase on your reimbursements across the board. So we try to keep these estimates really conservative, but a really quick and easy way you can actually estimate your annual revenue increase going through this process is if you take your practice's annual production before write-offs. So as an example here, we used $1 million. Okay. And then you take your percentage of patients under negotiable PPOs. Now, the reason I say negotiable is because I do recommend that you exclude Delta from the estimation, just because Delta historically, it's very rare to see them negotiate. We don't suspect a lot of change from them at this point in time. And then they also don't optimize, meaning they don't partner with any other company. And so unfortunately, that is not an avenue for that insurance company either to get higher reimbursements. So I do typically tell clients to err on the side of not expecting an increase there. So whatever your PPO percentage patient base is, exclude the percentage that's Delta. That's going to give you what we consider your negotiable PPO patient base. So if you think, okay, we're 80% PPO, we're on the Delta heavy side, we're like 30% Delta, that's what would bring you down to 50, for example. And then you just multiply that against that annual production, and that's going to give you what we consider your negotiable production. So essentially the revenue that fluctuates based upon your reimbursement, right? So really the revenue that's currently being capped and controlled by the insurance companies. So once you have that number, you can simply multiply it by the scale to see what your potential results would be. So if you were to get a 10% increase with a $500,000 negotiable production, that would be like a $50,000 annual revenue increase for your practice, right? If you were to get in that 18% range, that would be a $90,000 annual revenue increase for your practice. 4%, $20,000 annual revenue increase for your practice. So again, that's just a quick conservative way you can run those numbers, but this really is what's really great about this process and why it is so crucial and needed for your practice is it is the only way that you're going to get that revenue that is capped by the insurances back into your practice. This is increasing your revenue without trying to increase your production, without trying to cut different costs here and there. So without treating any additional patients, it's increasing that per patient profit. So just to quickly share some results from our clients, for Dr. Morgan in North Carolina, they had 5 negotiated PPO contracts, 2 optimizations, and they saw over $64,000 annual revenue increase for their practice. For Dr. Baker in Texas, they had 5 negotiated PPO contracts, 3 optimizations, and they saw over a $79,000 annual revenue increase for their practice. And Dr. Young in Florida had 7 negotiated PPO contracts, 4 PPO optimizations, and they saw that projected revenue increase of over $100,000 increase. So really, really great results here. Again, just to recap everything we've talked about for the 3 key strategies to increasing your PPO reimbursements. The first step is to understand your PPO participation and your current reimbursements. So like we talked about, you want to discover and document your PPO participation status with each insurance company and collect all of your current fee schedules. Then you're going to approach negotiations and you want to be tactful with it. You want to ensure that you're not wasting time on the wrong procedures. So you're going to get those top 20 to 35 codes of most concern. And then you're going to maximize your negotiation opportunities by partnering with us, the PPO experts, in order to further optimize your PPOs and evaluate additional opportunities to really maximize that in-network participation and ensure you're in the best PPO position possible. All right, so I'm sure some of you are feeling a little bit like this right now, right? Information overload. I know we've covered a lot in this past half hour. I've given you lots of information. So again, I really hope you all downloaded our PPO negotiation quick start guide. I'll just throw it up here for you one more time in case you missed it. It's www.ppguide.com. Otherwise, you can scan this QR code with your phone right off the screen here, and it should lead you right to it. But yeah, definitely download this quick start guide. It's a step-by-step breakdown of our exact PPO negotiation framework that I just went through with you. So a lot of really great free information there right at your fingertips. And of course, again, if you've had any questions come to you as we've gone through everything, please drop them in the Q&A and we will make sure that we get those answered for you. All right, so what's going to happen after you finish the webinar today? Well, it probably depends on where you're at in the country, but for most of you, you're probably nearing the end of your day or you've already finished. So you're going to go eat dinner, you're going to go home, maybe you're going to go right back to scheduling patients, treating patients. You're going to just get back into the whirlwind of running a busy dental practice. But the reality is, your practice needs higher PPO reimbursements ASAP, as soon as possible. So don't let this go to the back burner. It's so easy, I know, when you're running a really busy practice for this to get pushed to the side because you're trying to keep everything else running. But again, this is what's going to increase your revenue and increase your profit per patient. So if it's okay with you, I'd like to make an offer that will hopefully encourage you to implement everything we've talked about today and gotten all excited about a little bit faster. So if you right now go to schedule a free PPO consultation with us, you just go to www.ppguide.com/go. Again, that's www.ppguide.com/go. You can just put in your office information. It literally takes less than 1 minute. You can pick a date and time that works best for you. It's a free 30-minute consultation, 30-minute or less, where you'll get to meet with one of our consultants. We'll review your current your current PPO insurances. So when you get on the call, make sure you kind of have a list or an idea of what insurances you're currently participating with. It doesn't have to be as elaborate as we just went through. You don't have to know if you're direct, if you're through a certain company or any of that. You don't have to have your current fee schedules. Just have that as an idea of who you are participating with. We'll calculate your projected ROI together. We'll identify which of our services you're best suited for and what we can do for you. So it's definitely worth it. Again, it's a free call. Get on there, see what we can do for you. We'll look at your individual situation. Plus, if you do that, for being on today's webinar, you're going to get these awesome limited time bonuses. So for being on the webinar, and if you schedule and complete a free consultation with us, you're going to get these additional bonuses. So like I mentioned, the first bonus, you're going to get that PPO provider relations master list. So this is awesome because we make hundreds of phone calls to PPO insurances every single month. I think we have a pretty good master contact list. So this is going to save yourself hours of sitting on hold because you've called the wrong number. This is going to help you collect that PPO participation faster by knowing the right number to call. So you can print this out, keep it handy, paste it on your wall. We value this at $199. And you're getting it completely free as a bonus for this webinar and having a free consultation with us. The next awesome bonus you're going to get is our e-guide. So we've compiled an e-guide of 35 common insurance problems and how to avoid them. So after over 10 years of doing this, we've compiled all of your top PPO solutions to our most commonly asked questions. So we cover things from downcoding to balance billing, out of network benefits, info changes if you're changing your tax ID number or changing your business name, how to go about that, key steps to adding an associate to PPOs, plus many, many more. So we understand that these types of insurance questions and maybe nuanced questions come up and you don't really know where to turn to or who to ask. So again, we've compiled this list or all these different questions and problems that offices we've seen run into. So hopefully this can save you also hours of trying to solve the frustrating PPO related problems. So we value this at $299. Again, you're getting this completely free. And finally, you are getting a fee schedule analysis tool. So I know I've been joking throughout this webinar, basically every step requires you to make an Excel document or a spreadsheet. And I joked that you're going to be an Excel wizard by the end of this. Well, you really don't have to, because this is the same tool that we use for our clients to analyze their UCRs and fee schedules. So it's going to be it's so nice because it's already automated formulas, calculations, just super easy, ready to use online spreadsheet. And so that way you can, again, see, are your UCRs, are office fees priced too low? How do your UCRs reimbursements compare to the other PPOs? And what are your highest reimbursing PPOs? What are the offers looking like? So we actually value this at $499. You're getting completely free. So let's recap what you're going to get, okay? So if you go to schedule at www.ppoguide.com/go, open up another tab on your computer or your tablet right now so that you don't forget, act right now. Pick a date on the calendar the next couple weeks here or whenever you're available. And that way we'll meet with you. So that way you can have a PPO evaluation and ROI projection done by one of our consultants, one of our sales reps. You can get that e-guide of the 35 common insurance problems valued at $199. You can get our PPO provider relations master list at $299. And our PPO fee schedule analysis tool valued at $499. plus hours of saved time, which we know is priceless, and higher PPO reimbursement rates. So you're getting a total value of at least $997 here, completely free. So don't waste time, don't hesitate. It's a free consultation call. Go schedule right now, and one of our teammates will be super happy and excited to talk to you to see what we can do for your practice. Alrighty, so thank you all again so much for your time today. I really appreciate it. I hope that you gleaned some really helpful information from this webinar about what we chatted about, and I hope that you do hop on a call with us. And if you have some additional questions that have come to you, please do schedule a consultation call so that we can get those answered. Or if anything, drop them in the Q&A chat box, and that way those will get sent to me and I can reach out to you directly via email and get those answered for you. But I did want to spend the last few minutes here just to go over some frequently asked questions that normally do pop up in these webinars. So just to kind of jump in, and again, if anything comes out, you can also email here, the PPO solutions at unitasdental.com. That's an additional email contact for you. So a very common question we always get on the webinars are there any PPOs that won't negotiate? So like I mentioned when we were going over the results and how to calculate your ROI, Delta is going to be the biggest PPO that historically does not negotiate. It is very rare to see them deviate from their standard zip coded fee schedules. That being said, I highly encourage offices and our clients to continually request negotiations from Delta. We're optimistic that the more offices that continue to reach out and request increases, the more likely they are to eventually come to the table to negotiate. So that's going to be the biggest PPO that even for us, our hands are going to be the most tied with. That being said, for most other PPOs, you're typically eligible every 2 years. So as long as you have been contracted that long and haven't negotiated since then, you should be good to go. There are some PPOs that are more receptive to negotiations than others at different times. But that is, again, why our company really has honed in on optimization, so that if a company doesn't give an offer that you're hoping for, or the increase is pretty minimal, there's a chance that you could switch to participating through a different network that would offer a higher reimbursement. So there are those additional avenues to navigate. So can we work with Unitas? What do you charge? Absolutely, you can work with us and we would love to. For the pricing question, I am going to recommend that you schedule a consultation for that, or again, shoot an email to us for a quote, just because we do have a couple services that vary in pricing. So it really does depend on how many locations, providers, how many PPOs you're with, or what specific as to which service you're going to be the best fit for and what the associated pricing would be. So I don't want to dodge that question, but for the most accurate quote, you would need to schedule a consultation with us, and then we can get that over to you. So if you're an office that's maybe thinking about dropping PPOs, is that something that we can help with? Absolutely. If you're an office that is thinking about potentially adding or dropping PPOs, that absolutely is something that we can help with. So as we go through this framework, I do recommend, of course, before you drop a PPO, you do exhaust all other efforts of trying to negotiate the rate or optimize to a higher paying network. But if there are any that you just want to completely drop ties with, that is definitely something that we can assist with. All right, so I'm opening or purchasing a new practice. How do I set up my PPO contracts? Do I need to get credentialed if I'm already in network at another location? Okay, so this is something that I always love to talk about, because I know there's a lot of providers out there. Maybe you're a new provider and you're opening or purchasing a practice. Maybe you're growing your office, so you're opening new additional locations. So it is very, very crucial that before you credential at a new location, you negotiate your reimbursements first. So a lot of providers don't know that that's possible or that you can do that, but you can. Because if you don't, once you credential, you're going to be locked into whatever fee schedule they put you on for, again, that 2 to 3 year mark. So you really have that leverage to set the trajectory and negotiate, get the different proposals first. So that way, you know what the fees are going to be, you know you're getting the best reimbursement rate from each insurance company possible, and you can be super strategic in how you credential. So again, we can look at the different networks and leasing relationships, compare the fees, and determine which companies are going to offer you the highest reimbursement, and then credential you that way right off the bat. So that way you get totally started off on the right foot, maximizing that revenue and your in-network participation. So if you're in that position, if you, again, are thinking you're opening or purchasing a new practice, highly recommend you get on a call with us so we can talk about how we strategize that. And what we can do for you. It is a process. Do keep in mind that the credentialing time period is generally 90 to 120 days about for an insurance company to process an application. So that's if you're credentialing an associate, you're adding a new location, you're adding a PPO. It does take a few months. And then if you add on negotiations to that, that's going to take some additional time as well. So the sooner you get this process rolling, the better off you're going to be, and the happier you're probably going to be with your reimbursements. So yes, when you go to a new location, even if you're a network at somewhere else, it's totally specific to each location. So you do need to get credentialed to that specific location. Again, negotiate the fees first. And then lastly, I'm adding an associate. I want them to treat insured patients. Do they need to be credentialed, or can they just bill under me, the owner doctor, or can they bill under the owner doctor? Okay, so this is something that I get asked a lot, and I see a lot of offices running into this issue when they are adding associate doctors. Okay, if you are adding an associate or you have associate doctors and you want them to be treating insured patients and them to be like they're in network and the claims process in network, you do need to credential that associate, again, specific to your location. They can be credentialed under the owner's tax ID number and their business. That's totally fine, but they, as the individual associate, still do need to fill out a credentialing application and get submitted. That's totally something that we can also help with. We have a la carte credentialing services, but that's how the claims are processed. Is they're going to check for the tax ID number, the address or specific location, and the specific provider. So all three things got to match in order for the claim to actually process in network. You shouldn't just be putting the owner's name on every single claim if they're not the treating or rendering provider. The claim specifically asks that. You need to put who really is doing the treatment, and that is how the claim is going to process, depending on if that rendering provider has been credentialed or not. So just to clear that up, because again, we do get a lot of questions on that, and I know that that comes up a lot. So make sure, again, if you have any credentialing needs or additional questions on that, reach out and we can totally help you out. So that's kind of all the FAQs that we were going to cover today. If you have, again, any additional questions, feel free to email to pposolutions@unitasdental.com. Otherwise, schedule the free consult with us, and we would love to talk with you in more detail and talk about how we can help your practice.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Chloe. Thank you for a really wonderful presentation this evening. And thank you to all of you for joining us tonight. We're so glad that you could make it. So good news is we did record tonight's webinar, and we'll be emailing out that recording sometime during the next week. So one more thing to ask for you before you leave, we'd really appreciate your feedback via the survey that's going to pop up on your screen in just 1 minute. So once again, thank you to all of you for joining us. Thank you, Chloe, and we look forward to seeing you again on future webinars.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Stephen. Thanks, everyone.